Right now, over 200,000 people are sitting in the dark without power across 5 states. In a truly bizarre twist, Anchorage, Alaska, is warmer than Jacksonville, Florida. Meanwhile, Charlotte is digging out from under a foot of snow. This brutal Arctic blast is giving us a short 48-hour breather. But what's brewing for Valentine's Day weekend has every weather expert I know completely scrambling to update their forecasts. Don't skip the middle and last parts of this, the details are critical. The entire country is literally split down the middle. A massive dome of high pressure is parked over the west, pumping beautiful 70-degree warmth into California. But for everyone else, that dome is acting like a giant wall, forcing a fire hose of Arctic air to pour straight down from Canada over the eastern half of the nation. It's a wild setup, and we have two distinct waves of weather barreling toward us. Let's break down the timeline, because what's coming is no joke and you need to be ready. Here's what's got me seriously concerned. Overnight, the most reliable weather model we have, the European model, shifted the track of that big Valentine's weekend storm about 50 miles to the west. That might not sound like much, but it's a game changer. Cities that thought they were in the clear are now directly in the path of a potential monster storm. We're talking about possible blizzard conditions up north, a severe thunderstorm outbreak in the south, and another model is showing an even more aggressive track. Let's get right to the city-by-city breakdown, starting with the Northeast, where conditions are just plain brutal. New York City will hover in the 20s and 30s, with snow squalls possible on Friday. Boston will be just as cold, but the wind chills will make it feel 15 degrees colder the second you step outside. The entire I-95 corridor from Philly down to D.C. is getting clipped by snow before that main Arctic blast sends temperatures into a nosedive. This is not your average cold snap, folks. Upstate New York and New England are in for a serious blast of winter. Buffalo and Syracuse are dealing with daytime highs barely hitting the freezing mark, and that's before the dangerous lake effect snow machine really cranks up. Out in Portland, Maine, you're looking at similar temperatures, but some parts of northern New England could easily see 6 to 12 inches of fresh powder by Friday. For folks in Hartford and Providence, expect a solid 3 to 5 inches, making that Friday commute an absolute mess. The Great Lakes region is getting the absolute worst of this Arctic outbreak. Chicago is looking at highs of 30 and lows of 15, but the wind chill will make it feel well below zero. It's the same story for Detroit and Milwaukee, but Minneapolis? You're in the epicenter of this deep freeze, with temperatures plunging to 10 degrees and wind chills approaching 30 below zero by Saturday. That is genuinely dangerous cold that can cause frostbite on exposed skin in a matter of minutes. Please take this seriously. Now look at this insane temperature difference on the map. It's 50 degrees in Oklahoma City, but only 25 in Minneapolis. These cities are only about 800 miles apart. That massive 25-degree contrast over such a short distance is the engine driving this entire chaotic weather pattern. The atmosphere is desperately trying to balance itself out, and it's creating storm after storm in the process. This atmospheric battleground is exactly where the most intense weather is born, and it's not done with us yet. The southeast is finally starting to thaw out after a cold snap that caught so many by surprise. Atlanta is bouncing back to a pleasant 55 degrees, which is actually above normal for this time of year. Charlotte is hitting 50, but many of you are still dealing with a foot of snow on the ground, and schools have been closed for a week in some places. Thousands of families in Tennessee are still without power and heat. If you know anyone in that situation, please check on them right now. And I have to talk about Florida for a second, because what a wild ride it has been. Miami is rocketing back to a beautiful 75 degrees after hitting the mid-30s just a few days ago. That is a 40-degree temperature swing. Your closet can't even keep up with that. You went from needing a winter jacket on Saturday to shorts and a tank top by Tuesday. Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville are all warming up nicely, finally getting relief from the freeze warnings that had people worried about their pipes bursting. Texas and the Gulf Coast are looking like the place to be right now. Houston is sitting pretty at 60 degrees with no winter weather in sight. Dallas and Fort Worth are recovering nicely from the ice threats last week, with temperatures climbing into the upper 50s. All the way down to San Antonio and Austin, you're enjoying above normal temperatures. Further east, New Orleans is mild at 65, though there is a chance for a few rumbles of thunder today as you sit on the edge of that active weather pattern. Out west, it's like spring has already arrived. Los Angeles and San Diego are basking in the mid-60s, while Phoenix hits a perfect 70 degrees. The entire Southwest is just vibing right now. But here's my warning to you. Enjoy it while it lasts. The weather pattern is set to flip around the middle of the month, right around Valentine's Day. When it does, that storm track and all that colder air is going to start heading your way. The Pacific Northwest is already getting a little taste of this with rain in Seattle. The Great Plains is the transition zone, the place where the warm air to the south is clashing with that brutal cold pushing down from the north. Kansas City and Omaha are feeling that push, with highs stuck at 40. For places like Wichita and Tulsa, you're right on that dividing line. Meanwhile, St. Paul is locked in the deep freeze right alongside Minneapolis. And pretty much the entire state of Wisconsin is getting hammered by this Arctic air. It's a true tale of two very different weather stories. Now let's get into the critical timeline. Today's just the appetizer. Tomorrow, Friday, is when things really kick into high gear. An Alberta Clipper system is diving down from Canada, and it's going to unleash dangerous snow squalls across the Great Lakes and into the Ohio Valley. A snow squall can drop visibility to near zero in just minutes, creating sudden whiteout conditions on the roads. If you're driving in Indianapolis, Columbus, or Detroit on Friday, you need to be on high alert. Then comes the weekend. This is the main event. A life-threatening Arctic blast will consume the Great Lakes and the Northeast. I am not using that term lightly. We are talking about wind chills plunging to 30, 40, even 50 degrees below zero. At those temperatures, frostbite can set in on any exposed skin in as little as 10 to 15 minutes. By Sunday morning, parts of New England could be seeing the coldest air they've experienced in years, with actual air temperatures, not wind chills, potentially hitting 25 below zero. Okay, now for the part that has me glued to my screen, that storm brewing for Valentine's Day weekend. Around February 13th, a surge of energy is expected to dive down the Rocky Mountains and could form what we call a Colorado low. These types of storms are notorious for becoming absolute monsters. They draw in warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and clash it with cold, Arctic air, creating an explosion of energy that can fuel every type of weather imaginable, all within one single storm system. The different weather models are all showing the potential for a major storm, but they disagree on the exact track, which changes everything. One scenario brings a crippling blizzard to the Great Plains. Another scenario unleashes a dangerous severe weather outbreak, including possible tornadoes, from Dallas all the way to Nashville. And if this storm tracks just a little bit further east, the entire I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. to Boston could be in the crosshairs for a blockbuster snowstorm. Don't let anyone tell you winter is over just because we see a brief warm-up next week. The polar vortex is likely to regroup and unleash another blast of frigid air late in the month. When you get a significant warming trend followed immediately by another Arctic outbreak, that is the classic textbook setup for major winter storms. The atmosphere just goes completely haywire. That battle zone between the retreating cold and the surging warmth is where the real weather fireworks happen every single time. So here's what you absolutely need to do right now to prepare. Go stock up on essential supplies today, not on Friday when everyone else is rushing to the store. Charge every single electronic device you have. If you're still without power from the last storm, please find a warming center immediately. And please be careful with generators. Keep them outside, far away from any windows or doors. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer that claims lives every single winter without fail. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly or anyone who lives alone. A simple phone call or a knock on the door could literally save a life in this kind of dangerous cold. And bring your pets inside. Period. If it's too cold for you to stand outside for 10 minutes, it is way too cold for them. Make sure your car has an emergency kit with blankets, water, and a phone charger. If you get stranded this weekend, a safe situation can turn dangerous in a hurry. Being prepared is your best defense. So let's wrap this up. There are 4 main things I need you to focus on. 1. The snow lingering today in the Carolinas and Virginia. 2. Friday's fast-moving snow squalls across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, which will make travel extremely dangerous. 3. The weekend's life-threatening Arctic blast, which is not an exaggeration. And 4. That massive storm signal for Valentine's weekend. That's the one I'll be watching like a hawk, and I'll have an update for you first thing tomorrow morning.